My older sister, Samantha, who was supposed to have moved back in with our parents after her divorce, left her daughter with us and disappeared without a word. Yet suddenly, she called and said something absurd.
Do you know where I am right now? A hospital. At the maternity clinic.
I couldn't immediately grasp what Samantha was talking about. Maybe irritated by my lack of understanding, she added.
Guess what? I'm having a baby with Bob. And you never come back, okay?
That's what she said. So I replied. All right. You really have no idea, do you? I made sure to keep the words in my heart from slipping out. Then I turned to Haley, her abandoned daughter, and asked. Hey, Haley, do you want to meet your dad? Live with him? If you really feel that way, I can talk to him for you.
Yes.
Haley nodded enthusiastically. Now I could finally give those two a piece of my mind without holding back. My name is Emily Turner, and I'm a 32-year-old homemaker. I work from home as a sales and planning consultant for a renovation company. To put it simply, I specialize in home renovation proposals and sales. Currently, I live in a refurbished apartment in Chicago that I redesigned myself. However, I'm on a short break from work. I've been feeling emotionally drained lately, so I used up my paid holidays and returned to my parents' house. That's partly because there's been a bit of a rift between me and my husband, Bob. We got married when I was 30. Back then, I was so engrossed in work because I loved it too much. When I suddenly realized it, my 20s were nearly over. I panicked and thought, I need to hurry. Once I got married, I knew I wanted kids. There's a time limit on having children. If that's the case, I need to hurry. Once that thought crossed my mind, I went straight ahead. I frantically started dating, met Bob, who's 2 years older than me, and we happily got married when I turned 30. At that point, Bob shared the same desire to have kids as I did. So I figured I'd work until we had a child and then take a break, but nearly 2 years passed with no sign of anything happening. Maybe there's something wrong with my body. Thinking that, I went through countless thorough examinations on my own, but they all showed nothing abnormal. Finally, I decided to confide in Bob and persuaded him to get tested. I'd heard that most men resist such tests, and Bob was no exception.
A test? My body's been healthy all my life. Why would I need something like that?
This isn't about general health. It's a bit different.
Either way, I'm not doing it. Think about it. Having to go to the hospital for.
But if that's how you feel.
You're used to exams, aren't you? You spread your legs for them all the time.
Excuse me? What is this man talking about? For the first time, I started to feel distrust toward Bob. Does he even understand what it's like for a woman during a gynecological exam? Does he think I'm always okay with it? I had already gone through multiple tests, and there were no issues with me. The doctors told me I was perfectly healthy. That meant the problem had to lie with him. I decided to reason with Bob logically, not emotional. Because he often mocks me, saying, women act on emotions. Somehow, I managed to convince him, and he reluctantly agreed to get tested. The result? Bob was diagnosed with azoospermia.
What? That's impossible.
Bob was stunned as he heard the doctor's words. Well, I couldn't blame him. It must have felt like his self-confidence was shattered in an instant.
If you're determined to have a child together, there's a surgical option where we extract cells directly from the testicles. However, the success rate is only about 1 in 3.
Hearing that, Bob seemed deeply shocked. Ever since then, he started coming home very late from work. Is your job really that busy every single day?
Leave me alone. I just don't want to see your face right now.
Is it that upsetting, what the doctor said?
Of course. It's like being told I'm not a real man.
Well, I suppose that's understandable. But... So, you've always been telling me I'm incomplete too, haven't you?
What?
You blamed me, saying it was my fault, that there must be something wrong with my body. That's the same as calling me incomplete as a woman, isn't it?
What? What are you talking about? Men and women are different.
After having this conversation a few times, I became utterly exhausted. I was losing sleep, and it started affecting my work. So, I got a doctor's note and decided to take a leave of absence, returning to my parents' house to rest for a while. More than anything, I just didn't want to see Bob's face right now. Since my dad was often away on long business trips, my mom happily welcomed me back after hearing my situation. However, even my mom looked somewhat worn out during this time. I thought something might have happened, but I was too drained myself to ask her right away. Not long after I returned, my nemesis showed up. My older sister, Samantha, who's 3 years older than me. What's going on, Samantha? Samantha dropped her luggage heavily.
Seriously. All because of one or two little affairs, that man has the nerve to call me narrow-minded.
Affairs? That's right, my mom nodded wearily from the side. So, they got divorced. It was clear my mom had been deeply affected by the chaos surrounding that situation.
This is all I've got, so take care of this little one for me, would you?
Samantha had only brought a suitcase and a traveling bag. Then, leaving her little daughter Haley, a kindergartner, behind, she walked out the door. The child she abandoned was dressed strangely light for the middle of winter. Something about her appearance felt off. Then I realized. She wasn't wearing a scarf or gloves. Haley was only wearing an oversized coat and sat quietly in the corner of the room. "Aren't you cold?" When I asked, Haley shook her head. She must have been freezing. Yet she hesitated to join us on the heated carpet where we were sitting. I wondered what was wrong. When I stood up and encouraged her to sit with us, she flinched the moment I touched her. "Mom, about Haley." My mom, sensing the situation, took Haley over to her side instead of leaving her with me, her unfamiliar aunt. Her skin looked dry, and her hair was unkempt. "Haley, does your mom often leave you and go off somewhere?" Haley didn't respond, staying silent. "Do you feel lonely when your mom isn't around?" But when I asked that, she shook her head emphatically. After my mom encouraged Haley to get on the heated carpet and gave her a warm drink, she suddenly started crying.
"I want to see my dad."
"Hey, Mom, what about Tony? How does he feel about Haley?"
Of course, he said he wanted to take her, but Samantha was adamant about raising her herself.
Even in this state?
Yes, even like this. Honestly, with the alimony we had to front, things are tight for us too. And Tony has a much more stable household. I think Haley would be much happier if she were raised there, especially because she's so precious.
Still, in situations like this, the mother can usually claim custody if she wants it. So, you decided to take her in?
No, right after the divorce, Samantha was supposed to move into an apartment.
"He told us to leave."
Sitting awkwardly on my mom's lap, peeling a mandarin orange, Haley muttered softly. "What?"
"My mom and the man were arguing, and he said that."
Mom and I exchanged glances. When Samantha came back, Mom confronted her. Samantha grumbled with a sulky expression.
That idiot went and brought up something so pointless.
What happened, exactly?
Nothing. I just didn't pay the rent for 3 months, that's all.
What? Sam, you're not working?
I am working, but obviously it's not enough.
Mom and I looked at each other again. We didn't know what kind of job Samantha had. But judging from her flashy appearance, it was clear she was taking good care of herself. Her bag looked expensive too. On the other hand, Haley's condition was. She's definitely spending the child support, isn't she?
I think so, but technically, it's for Haley, so I'm not sure what to do.
Mom sighed. Thinking about how Haley's skin had slowly improved since coming to stay with us, I wanted to do something for her. But there wasn't much I could do in my current situation, and it was frustrating. Then one day, Samantha suddenly said, "I'm heading out for a while," and disappeared.
Where could she have gone, leaving Haley behind?
She literally left the house and went off somewhere. Even though there were issues with Haley's kindergarten, Samantha abandoned everything and ran away. Maybe that's for the best. Keeping Haley away from her might be the right thing to do. Haley is adorable. As someone who wants kids, I can't understand why Samantha would neglect such a sweet child. And Haley eats her meals with such enjoyment, regardless of the portion size, that it's heartwarming.
It's been so long since I've had a warm meal.
Hearing that from Haley, both my mom and I couldn't help but feel tears welling up. And it wasn't just that. When I took a bath with her, I noticed bruises all over her body. Her dry skin only made the bruises stand out even more when I first saw them. Panicking, I asked my mom to bring me my phone and took photos of the bruises.
What are you planning to do with those?
I just thought we should document them, just in case. If anything happens, we can make sure Haley ends up in the right hands.
You're planning to confront Samantha about this.
Mom, you also need to get her to repay the alimony she owes.
Well, you're right, but still.
If I were Haley's mother, I would never let this happen to her. Hearing that, my mom, already aware of why I was on leave from work, nodded firmly.
You're right. Why is it that children never seem to end up with the people who truly want them?
One afternoon, while I was reading Haley a picture book, I got a call. It was from Samantha. Hello?
Oh, Emily? Do you know where I am right now?
How would I know where you are, Samantha?
You're always like that. So unlovable.
I don't remember you ever treating me with love either.
That big mouth of yours won't last forever.
What are you trying to say?
I'm asking if you know where I am right now.
Where are you? There was a lot of noise in the background. But it wasn't enough to figure out her location. Somewhere downtown?
Close, but not quite. I'm at a hospital, a maternity clinic.
Okay.
There's that tone again. Can't you be a little more surprised or something?
Well, it's hard to be shocked on command. Before I could finish my sentence, Samantha interrupted.
I'm having a baby with Bob. Don't ever come back.
For a moment, I didn't fully understand what she was saying. A baby? With my husband? That couldn't be true. Then I remembered the real reason I was staying here. Come to think of it, I hadn't told Samantha anything about it. Without saying a word to anyone, Samantha would often wander out of the house and disappear somewhere.
Are you listening? I'll say it again. Listen carefully. You're not welcome back anywhere. I'll be living in that house.
That house?
The apartment you were living in. It might look old, but the interior is beautiful. It's wasted on you. A place like that suits me much better. So you can just stay over there forever.
What about Haley? Startled to hear her name, Haley flinched slightly.
Do whatever you want. You don't have kids. So why don't you raise her?
Are you sure about that?
That child is nothing but a burden now. I only took her in to get child support. But things have changed. So do whatever you want.
All right. You really don't know anything, do you? With those words, Samantha hung up the phone. I set my phone down and hugged Haley tightly.
What's wrong, Auntie?
Looking directly into Haley's eyes, I asked her, Haley, do you want to see your dad? Do you want to live with him? If that's really how you feel, I can talk to him for you.
Yes.
Haley nodded enthusiastically. That settled it for me. 2 weeks later, in the evening, my mom and I were preparing tea for an unusually large number of visitors when the phone started ringing repeatedly. Mom and I exchanged glances and silently agreed to ignore it. As night fell, we heard the intercom buzzing repeatedly and loud banging on the door. Mom.
I know.
Mom swiftly left the kitchen and went to the intercom, asking,
Who's there?
It's me. It's me.
I don't know who me is. State your name clearly.
Mom, stop messing around.
I know Emily's there. Let me see her.
Samantha and Bob's voices. I couldn't believe they'd come together. Caught you, I thought with a sly grin at the sound of their voices. As I served tea to the guests gathered around the large rectangular table, I said, It looks like they're here. The people seated at the table nodded deeply, as if to say, We understand. Soon, the front door opened with a loud bang. At the same time, a shrill voice echoed through the entryway.
What is with all these bags?
In the familiar hallway, men's leather bags. No, even a couple of women's bags were lined up neatly.
Everyone's been waiting for you two to show up.
What?
With an unusually cheerful demeanor, my mom greeted Samantha and Bob and led them into the living room where we were. The moment she opened the door to the room, Samantha let out a shrill,
What? Why are you all here?
The guests were crowded around a large rectangular table, sipping tea. Along the left side of the table sat Tony, Samantha's ex-husband, and his mother.
Why? Isn't it obvious, Samantha? We have something to discuss.
What's so strange about us wanting to visit and see our granddaughter after so long, Samantha?
And Samantha, when I contacted your old apartment, they said you were evicted for unpaid rent. I've been paying a decent amount in child support to ensure Haley could live properly, haven't I?
Tony and his mother were sipping tea with calm precision as Tony spoke matter-of-factly.
That kind of money doesn't even cover anything.
Samantha snapped, trying to approach the table. But my mom stopped her.
Samantha, you sit here.
She pointed to the carpet in front of the table, where there was no cushion or anything to sit on.
Why? That spot over there is free, isn't it? And who are these people?
She wasn't wrong. 3 of the 4 sides of the table were occupied. One side was taken by Tony and his mother. The short side had a man in glasses wearing a suit, quietly sipping tea. And another side was occupied by a couple.
Nice to meet you, Samantha Anderson. I'm Ashley Turner, this man's wife.
With that, Ashley tugged her husband into the light, revealing his face to Samantha.
You're...
Do you remember him? Or should I have him explain it to you? Right, dear?
Ashley smiled at Samantha with a radiant grin. The perfect contrast to her trembling husband. Samantha stood frozen, visibly shaking. Then, from behind her, someone firmly pressed down on her shoulders. Just sit down, Samantha.
Dad, why are you here?
Why wouldn't I be? This is my house, after all. Oh, you too, Bob. Sit down already.
Yes.
Bob was always intimidated by my father. My dad goes on long business trips because he works as a site supervisor for bridge construction projects in rural areas. For years, he's been leading outdoor crews, no matter how cold or dangerous the conditions. This made him the kind of person Bob, who relies on smooth talk to navigate office environments in the city, finds difficult to deal with. The two of them were made to sit formally on the carpet.
Well then, now that everyone's here, shall we begin?
The guests stopped drinking tea, and the lawyer sitting at the short side of the table pulled out some documents from his briefcase.
Begin what?
Bob turned to the lawyer sitting across from him and asked.
So first, we're here because your wife, Emily, wants a divorce.
What? Hey, Emily, you leave for your parents' house out of the blue, and now this? Wait, I have something I want to say to you first.
All right, what is it? I looked at Bob and asked.
What's the deal with selling the apartment?
It's exactly as it sounds. What's the issue?
Oh, there's an issue. Someone barged into my house out of nowhere.
What's going on, Emily? And why were those people there for the viewing?
Samantha interrupted Bob, joining in. I was putting the apartment up for sale and had potential buyers come to view it. That apartment has only been renovated for about 3 years since I worked on it. I needed them to check if it would suit them as it is.
Why are you doing something like that?
Because it's my apartment. Didn't Bob tell you? Samantha's face twisted in disbelief. When I decided on the divorce, I wasted no time taking action. I asked my company if they knew of any good real estate firms since I wanted to sell my apartment. Given the close ties between my company and real estate agencies, they quickly referred me to a firm specializing in pre-owned apartments. All the renovation data for my apartment was stored with my company, so they used it to list the property right away. I also set the price as low as possible to attract buyers quickly. Even so, it was worth significantly more than when I had originally bought it. For me, selling the apartment quickly was the priority. That was the most important thing. Since I love my job, I knew I could always use the same process to buy a new place in the future. Letting go of this one wasn't a big deal. By the way, Bob, didn't you tell Samantha that the apartment was bought and renovated by me?
No, I don't have to tell her.
I bought that place with my savings before we got married and personally arranged for the renovations. You've just been living there without contributing anything, so you have no claim to it.
What?
Samantha's eyes darted between Bob and me.
Wait, that wasn't Bob's house?
I never said it was.
Normally, the woman moves into the man's house.
And I cut her off. Why are you butting into my property, Samantha?
Because I was planning to take Bob and the apartment away from you.
You idiot.
Our dad smacked Samantha on the head.
Ouch. That hurts. Dad, you're so mean.
Mean? Are you admitting you've been having an affair with Bob?
An affair? No, I plan to marry him. After all, I'm pregnant with Bob's child.
With that, Samantha pulled a maternity record out of her bag and held it up. Bob's eyes widened as he stared at it. Then, in a flash, he slapped Samantha across the face.
My child. There's no way.
What do you mean?
I have a zoospermia.
It was a painful declaration. Bob probably didn't want to admit it, even now. But he had no choice. If he didn't speak up, he'd be forced to raise another man's child. It seemed he made the decision quickly.
You sisters are both just out to ruin me, aren't you?
Bob turned and glared at me with hatred. I let out a deep sigh. Listen, Bob. You're always whining about how hurt you are, but do you know how many times I had to go through tests? All you had to do was provide a sample. Meanwhile, my tests involved invasive procedures, blood draws, and even injecting contrast into my fallopian tubes. That's painful. It's practically surgery. Bob's face twisted in discomfort. And you couldn't even bring yourself to try the surgery the doctor suggested.
Well, Bob, did you ever consider that surgery?
My dad placed a firm hand on Bob's shoulder. Bob trembled, unable to answer. No, because instead, you got involved with Samantha, thinking there'd be no consequences since she wouldn't get pregnant, right?
What?
Samantha whipped around to face Bob.
So, Bob, from the start, you only saw me as...
Of course. It was just fun. You came onto me, and since I can't have kids, I figured why not? But come on, why would I ever take a single mom who throws herself at me seriously?
This time, Samantha slapped Bob across the face, the sound echoing around the room.
You're the worst.
And who's the worst here? Whose child is it? It's definitely not mine.
That would be his.
Ashley, who had been quiet until now, spoke up calmly.
It's my husband's, isn't it, Samantha?
What? I don't even know his name.
Of course not. He was using a fake name on the dating app.
Dating app.
You're unbelievable.
While I had explained some of the situation to my parents, even I hadn't known the full details of how they met.
I only met him a few times.
Yet you got pregnant, didn't you? And Samantha, I'll be suing you for damages from your affair. And no, I'm not divorcing him. Clinging to him won't work. He'll be spending the rest of his life making it up to me and our child.
With that, I'll leave the proceedings to you, Ashley said, flashing another brilliant smile at the lawyer.
Compensation?
Yes, and I have my own demands as well. I directed my words at Bob and Samantha.
Please, stop. I was just tempted into it.
But you're the one who gave in, weren't you? Samantha gleefully told me about her plans to take you and my home.
Well, even so.
It wasn't just the affair. I realized long before that I couldn't continue with you. Do you know how many times you blamed me for not being able to have kids before even agreeing to get tested? Oh, and your mother called me repeatedly to say the same thing.
My mom? You told my mom?
I sent her your test results. I knew she wouldn't believe me otherwise. Not that your parents are bad people, they're actually quite nice, but it's unfortunate I'll have to cut ties with them over this. Bob bit his lip in frustration.
What about the property division? You can't just sell the apartment like that.
Unfortunately, the apartment was entirely Emily's personal asset. Additionally, it seems you both kept separate savings accounts. This divorce will proceed smoothly, with compensation owed solely by you, Bob. And one more thing.
What else?
Bob and Samantha finally seemed to realize that their lack of even a cushion to sit on signified bad news for them.
Samantha, we will also be transferring custody of Haley to her father.
What?
Samantha wasn't even listening to the details anymore. She was too consumed with anger at being blamed for everything.
You're taking everything from me and now Haley too?
But you said it yourself on the phone, didn't you? I played the recording of that call for everyone to hear.
Do whatever you want. You don't have kids, so why don't you raise her? That child is nothing but a burden now. I only took her in for the child support. But things are different now. Do as you like.
I had deliberately recorded that conversation to ensure Haley's custody could be transferred to Tony. Samantha is reckless. I figured she would slip up over something trivial. That's why I deliberately asked her about Haley as well.
And then there's this.
The lawyer presented photos of Haley's bruises and malnourished state to Tony and his mother.
This is horrible. How could you do this?
By the way, the winter coat Haley was wearing when she arrived at our house apparently came from a neighbor. A family with a boy gave her the coat because they saw her shivering outside. I interjected.
What?
When I visited the apartment complex to apologize on Samantha's behalf, the neighbors mentioned it. They saw Haley in the cold and handed down an old coat. That's all she had. Nothing more. That's why Haley was malnourished, had dry skin, and frostbite on her fingers from not even having gloves or a scarf. The lawyer then produced a medical report. Samantha, if you object, will proceed to family court.
What? Why are you going this far? Oh, I get it. You must be in love with Tony. You're just trying to replace me by framing Bob and me.
Your delusional pink brain hasn't changed one bit.
Tony said, exasperated.
I only got back in touch with Emily after years because of this situation. I had no idea Haley was going through something like this. I'm truly grateful she told me.
What? What? Are you saying it's all my fault?
How could you possibly think it's not your fault?
The lawyer responded calmly.
First, you had an affair with Ashley's husband from the dating app. Then you tried to get close to Emily's husband, Bob, after getting pregnant, aiming to pass the child off as his. And on top of that, there's the child neglect and abuse. The fact that you think you've done nothing wrong is astonishing.
Samantha groaned, stood up abruptly, and tried to bolt from the room.
What's wrong, Auntie?
Startled by the noise, Haley opened the door to the room just as Samantha was rushing out, accidentally bumping into her. Samantha lost her balance and fell hard onto the floor.
Oh?
Haley!
Daddy!
Haley immediately forgot about her mother, who had fallen nearby, and ran joyfully toward her father. Meanwhile, something seemed off about Samantha as she lay collapsed on the floor. She was groaning in pain, clearly struggling. Oh. I noticed a dark, red stain spreading from under Samantha's skirt. Mom. Call an ambulance. What followed was utter chaos. Samantha ended up having a miscarriage. It seemed she truly was in the early stages of pregnancy, and the mental shock of being confronted, standing up suddenly after sitting for so long, and the final blow of colliding with the door all contributed to the outcome. A dark stain slowly spread across the carpet where Samantha was sitting. I immediately asked my parents to call for an ambulance. Haley was sent with Tony and his mother to stay at their hotel for the night. She was overjoyed to finally see her father and seemed entirely unaware of her mother's suffering. Tony quietly took Haley and left. When the ambulance arrived, my mom and I rode with Samantha to the hospital. My dad stayed behind to ensure Bob didn't try to escape. Thanks to that, we managed to get Bob's signature on the divorce papers and his agreement to the compensation terms. Ashley and her husband left that day, saying they would follow up later. Since they live nearby, there's no need to rush. Samantha and Ashley's husband just met through a dating app after she moved into my parents' house. She experienced heavy bleeding and was even in danger of losing her life at one point. However, her resilient mind and body seemed to pull her through. And she was discharged after only a few days. When she returned to the family home, Haley was already gone. The next chapter involved Ashley continuing her demands. If it had been just my mom, Samantha might have tried to escape, but with my dad watching her closely, she had no choice but to comply. Currently, under my father's supervision, Samantha has been taken to a remote construction site where she spends her days doing chores from morning till night. It's probably the worst possible work environment for someone like Samantha, who would otherwise run away again if left unchecked. As for Bob, he was immediately kicked out of the apartment after that. The potential buyers who came for the viewing expressed interest in moving in immediately, though they mentioned the place needed cleaning. As a result, Bob had to hastily move out of the apartment. Since the furniture was all mine, he was left with nothing. While the alimony he owed wasn't as devastating as it was for Samantha, moving from scratch was bound to be an expensive ordeal. His new place wasn't anywhere close to the previous one. He ended up relocating to a distant town where one of his company's subsidiaries was located. Thanks to the certified letter I sent to his company, Bob's position there plummeted, and he was demoted. Instead of the fast-tracked corporate ladder at headquarters, he found himself in a dead-end position, one with little hope of returning to his former status. According to a mutual acquaintance who contacted me later, Bob insisted until the end that I had set him up. However, rumors about his physical condition, which I had subtly leaked, combined with his pitiful attempts to save face, completely destroyed his reputation as a man. Honestly, it was pathetic.
Auntie.
Haley. Oh, look at that adorable outfit.
Grandma bought it for me.
It had been 2 months since everything happened. Haley, now bright and healthy, a far cry from when Samantha brought her here, occasionally visits our home with Tony.
Well, isn't that just wonderful? You know, Emily, we should go shopping together sometime.
Oh, Mom, you're too much. Since then, I had been transferred to a sales office within driving distance of my parents' home. I had considered resigning after taking such an extended leave. But my company, having learned about my situation, offered me a position closer to home instead. Now, I primarily live with my mom at the family home. As for my dad, he made it clear that Samantha wouldn't be allowed to step foot in the house again unless she truly reformed.
Actually, today, I wanted to ask if you could handle a renovation for our home, Emily.
Oh, thank you. Of course. Could you tell me more about your needs?
Yes, we'd like to convert one of the rooms into a bedroom for Haley.
Haley had grown close to her dad and grandparents, and she seemed to enjoy her days at her new preschool after transferring.
After everything with my first marriage, I've decided to live solely for Haley for the time being.
That's a wise choice. Choosing a life partner is truly challenging. I'll keep that in mind for myself. It's true. Rushing into marriage just because I was nearing 30 had been a mistake. I ended up wasting years because of it. I don't know if there will be another chance for me, but if there is, I'll take my time and choose more carefully next time.